And I think the Celtic fans maybe got a bit excited at seeing pictures of Kasper Schmeichel at training. Has he made a quick recovery, or is there a...
No, he's clearly not damaged his feet, so he can use his feet and work on his touch and whatnot. So no, I think the timeline we've been given has been 5 to 6 weeks by the medical experts, but that could be sooner. So he feels good. He's got mobility. He's got rotation there, but we just obviously have to be careful with the blade in his shoulder. So, but he can do other things. So he's out on the training field and working the technical side of his game. How's
everything else you feeling? How do you've been here before? How do you sum up that mindset when you get to this stage where you're looking to just drive over the line?
Yeah, it's a good feeling because obviously we get the chance to train. We get a chance to figure out some of the maybe any issues that we've had in any of the games, and then we can then go out to the weekends and look to perform. The feeling's really good. The players have been brilliant this week in training, I have to say, watching the level, and because it's very easy, especially when we've had a few days sunshine up here, it can feel relaxed. But it's anything but that. This stage of the season, it is really about your focus and training with a big heart every single day in your training, and then you look to take that into the game at the weekend. So yeah, the boys have been really good this week.
We're never far away from debate here in Scottish football. League reconstruction's been doing the rounds this week. Have you got a preference as to what that would look like, if change at all?
No, I've just heard that, so I didn't or haven't seen that. But someone mentioned the possibility of it getting smaller or increasing. I certainly don't think it needs to get smaller. If it goes anyway, I think there's still a notion for me that we could bring a few more teams into the league. Clearly there's maybe issues around TV revenue, money, or whatever way that would look like, and there may be a challenge to that. But I think from a football perspective, I always felt that the increase in the league would help.
How do you square that with perhaps a worry about playing too many games? I know that's an ongoing worldwide discussion, but I think you've spoken as well. Is there part of you that would like to see fewer league games, or how do you feel about the number?
Well, I think the number has been 38 for a period of time, so I'm fairly comfortable with that. I think there's lots of other football that gets added in, and then obviously your recovery time gets diminished. So listen, I think especially when you're a successful team, you expect to play and play more. So we accept that. I think on the, when I look in the bigger picture of the game, that there's absolutely no doubt the recovery of players. When I see the competition in the summer, with teams at possibility of getting to the Champions League finals, and then literally a couple of weeks later going into a tournament that's clearly driven by money. I don't think there's any doubt to that. But it's the players that will suffer in the end, as well as supporters, because the quality of the game, there can be too much football. There absolutely can, and we all love football, and I watch football from all around the world, games and most nights, and sometimes 3-4 games a day. But you're risking just showing too much football, which and time might turn people off. So I think we just have to be careful with the game. I also mentioned before, I do think that it will become a 12-month season, the game, and players, we may have to look at different recovery periods other than just in the summer. I think how it is going, I think you can see more games being added. You look at winter breaks now being taken away, and so there's obviously a lot of discussion points in it, but certainly from a domestic perspective, I think the notion if you could have a few more teams in there, I think it could work well.
Brendan, just on that, on the discussions, there's talks of a working group and people on that. Do you think that you as a manager, and maybe even the players as well, should have a bigger input into the way the game's going forwards?
Well, players and managers are two of the major stakeholders in the game, and alongside supporters. So there's absolutely no doubt that the welfare of the players should come into it first and foremost, because these are the guys that are having to prepare themselves, go out, train every day, train really hard, live with the pressure of performing or not performing and what that looks like. And so there's absolutely no question. Listen, I think we're all pretty clear. Let's not beat about the bushes. This is a money thing. It's based around finance. One federation not getting a tournament, so they put in another tournament, and so it's all financial. But the players have to have a big part in that, of course, as one of the leading stakeholders in this amazing game that we play.
Given the extra European games from this season, that was obviously the reason why we didn't have a winter break. But do you feel that you would welcome maybe playing 2 less league games if it got that winter break back?
Yeah, I think, well, this season has been interesting because I think it's been the first, well, we're nearly there and nearly through the season, but this has been the sort of first full season with the extra Champions League games in there and without the winter break. So there's no doubt that period was a tough period, and we managed to get through it incredibly well. So, but that's not to say that happens every season. So. Yeah, I would have to think on that. I'm not sure I can answer that now. I think whatever protects the game and the quality of the game, because like I said, players just churning out, and clubs like ourselves, we are fortunate in relation to, obviously we play more games, so we have a bigger squad and a pool of players that we can pull on. But there are other teams that will, you look at the beginning of pre-season this year, like Kilmarnock and teams like that somewhere in European football, and then having to, it's a real challenge.
Brendan, one of the, certainly amongst supporters and many others, one of the criticisms is that a team plays the same opponent 4 times a season. Do you buy into that can perhaps kill the enjoyment of that league?
Not kill the enjoyment, because there's still always something to play for. I wouldn't necessarily say it kills the enjoyment, but of course if you're playing a team home and away, then it's arguably better. But I can't say in all my experiences up here that has killed the joy. We will go to St Johnstone again, and we'll be ready for that, and the supporters will be ready for that, excited for the game. But I think if I had choice, of course you would play a team home and away, and that would be that. But the league is the way it is at the moment. It's nice that there's certain items of the game being looked at, but at the moment it is what it is, and we have to deal with that.
As you adhere to, ultimately, when it comes to the game, whether it's at European level, world level, or domestic level, finances ultimately dictate.
Yeah, I think that's how the game has pretty much evolved over these last numbers of years, and more so than now. So that is obviously paramount in the game, and but I think you can't ignore the players and what they go through on a physical level, and people will say, listen, they earn enough money, they should get on with it, but that's not the point. Not everyone does. Not everyone does, and it's more than that as well. The pressures now that the young players are under, and the spotlight that's on them, and what they have to deal with, it's a tough challenge.
In terms of the next few weeks, obviously an important period for you guys. Just get the foot down to the finishing line.
Yeah, that's the mentality. I think we had a really good response last week. I felt our game was a really good level against a good Hearts team that have been consistently doing really well over the last numbers of months. So yeah, I seen we've come up in the last numbers of weeks a few systems that have been different to what we've come up before, and we had to try and then figure that out going into the Hearts game, because they played the same as Rangers, and we some time on the training field, and then we were able to figure that out and work it well. So played with the speed, played with the mobility, the rotation, the technique that we wanted in the game, and scored 3 fantastic goals. So we want to keep delivering a level of performance, and like I say, the finish line is in the distance for all teams, you know, with the games. But for us, we know where we want to be come the end of the season. So each game now, that's where our focus is on.
I think the last time up in Perth was one of the real top performances of the season. Was 6-0. The one before that was the one I think you took the paint off the wall at half time. Remember the last season? Slightly contrasting kind of emotions in those games. Probably the more recent one is the one you're going for this weekend.
Hopefully, that would be nice. But yeah, no, that game that you mentioned, we were waiting on the game, and I don't like the team to wait, and we were disappointed in that first half. Second half, we were outstanding, and obviously in the performance earlier in the season up there was so good. The level of our game, the goals, we had a goal disallowed as well, which I felt was a goal. But the focus in the team and the level of the football was at a high level. So, but we're at the point of the season now where it's one game a week. We have to be really intense. We have to really go and show our authority in the game, and that's what we aim to do.
Do you think St Johnstone have improved since that game, Brendan?
Yeah, I look at how they play, and I think they've been unfortunate in terms of numbers of the games that they've played. I like the new managers come in and what he's trying to do and how they're trying to play, and they've obviously made some changes in January as well, so the team will look a bit different. Yeah, he wants them to play a technical game. Tactically, you can see how they move. I've enjoyed analysing them, but somehow they've just not quite got the results. So as always, we have to prepare for a tough game. Surface probably won't be ideal, but we have to deal with that and look to bring our A game.
Another Player of the Month award for Dyson as well. Kind of running out of things to say about him, I guess, but it just shows, you know, he's continuing that form, the consistency that he's kind of producing. Yeah,
remarkable few months he's had, but also a remarkable season. I think that to be sat on 30 goals where primarily you've played as a winger. It's only really February he's had the odd game as a striker, but since February when we've put him in there. But he's everything that I want to see in a central striker. You know, his work rate, his intensity, and then of course the movement that he makes for his goals. The first one last week, brilliant. Even Jota's goal, the sharpness of his movement to get the header. He's just so instinctive, and but also his reading of situations is so good. And I think he's improved on his technical level of his finishing, and that comes with confidence as well. He's been in various positions. So when you see him play through the centre, you feel that he's going to get goals and he's going to create goals. And I'm very happy for him.
Is that where you kind of see him going forward now? Like, he obviously used to be maybe a winger who played sometimes through the middle. Is it maybe switched a little bit quite useful? Well,
I think the situation it was that obviously Kyogo was the central striker here along with Adam. So you then he's playing a lot of his games off the side and was still effective there. But of course, and you guys are, like I said before, if you trace it back to when I was in Yokohama when he played, I feel he can play in that position. In January, I didn't want him to have to play in that position because I want the squad to be as strong as we could. But I felt that if we didn't get a striker in, there's no doubt he can play there. And he's hopefully shown why that is. Just movement, pace, technical ability, but also the hunger in his pressing is massive for any of my teams, and he's playing ever so well and consistently well.
Consistency of his finishing is maybe one of the biggest factors recently. It looks like he's going to score every time he gets a chance. Is that, you mentioned, maybe is that down to his mindset, just relaxing a bit more, or is it just a case of you see him out on the pitch every day working on it as well?
Well, yeah, there's a wee bit of everything there, really. I think that he works closely with Jack Lyons here, one of our young coaches, who'll focus individually on some of the details on that, and what we see in him. He's also he's very coachable, and he's a great learner, and that's what you want in your players. You can have players that are very good players, but they're not very coachable, but his ability to learn is also what has helped him. So he gets pointed out items with all the coaches, and we'll speak to him as a manager, and Jack will do specific stuff with him as well. But all of that, he's shown an ability to learn, and so that's always a good sign. And then I think confidence, like you say, being in the middle of the goal means he's making different runs. He's not where he's ending up crossing a lot on the left-hand side. He's not always in the positions that he would be as a central striker, but I think we've seen that he can make all the moves and do everything you want in that position.
Have you had to manage Adam Heath slightly as a consequence, because he might have kind of assumed or thought that he'd been maybe first choice with Kyle moving on, but it's not quite been the case. Have you had to manage that situation with him, or speak to him about it?
Well, I think it's all the players, Michael, and obviously, yeah, it's recognising and acknowledging that here there are a lot of games to play. But I think with Adam trains really well. He's very focused. He's had some really, really big moments for this club, and I'm really happy he's here to be one of a number of strikers, because he gives us something different. He's always looking to improve his game. His finishing's really, really good. But of course, Dyson going into the middle has meant that he's sort of played that similar sort of role to what he did with Kyogo. But it can also be the type of game that we need. But no, Adam is hungry to always show what he can do, as is Dyson, as is the other players. I look at young Johnny Kenny. I see Johnny Kenny every day, and I look at the work he puts in, whether he's off the side, whether he's through the middle. His movement's great. He's a fantastic finisher. 25 yards in, he's really, really good, and he's hardly had any game time. So I recognise with all the players, if you're not playing, especially at this time of the season where it's one game a week, it can be a challenge. But their attitudes of being first class, they're all supportive of each other, and the spirit is very strong.